Take a good look at this scene. A stage in Geneva, Switzerland. Thousands of people holding their breath. Two young minds locked in a battle of wits that even the world's top grandmasters would fear. One more move, and history will be made. But the real question isn't who will win. The real question is, how? How did a little girl, who just 2 years ago didn't know a pawn from a queen, whose dinner sometimes was just leftover bread from her mother's shift, end up here? Carrying not just a chess game, but the hopes of a single mother on the brink, the faith of a billionaire risking his career, and the redemption of a chess legend who thought he'd been forgotten. Maybe right now, you're sitting in your quiet room at midnight. Or maybe you're scrolling your phone in a noisy coffee shop, looking for something worth watching. I know you have 1,000 other videos to choose from, but I'm asking you to give this story a few minutes, because this isn't just a story about chess. It's a journey about the extraordinary potential hidden inside every one of us, about unexpected kindness from places we'd never imagine, about the thin line between genius and obscurity, and above all, about the power of someone daring to believe in another, against all odds and common sense. It's a reminder that sometimes the greatest people come from the humblest places, and a single small chance can change a destiny. So, before the final piece moves on that board in Geneva, I invite you to rewind time with me. Let's uncover the story of the destined move. Because this isn't just about a chess game. It's a story that might change how you see the opportunities in your own life. Our story doesn't begin under the spotlight in Geneva, but in the cold, relentless rain of Seattle. A rain that seems to wash away the city's colors, leaving only a silver-gray sheen on skyscrapers and wet concrete alleys. Among the hurried crowd clutching umbrellas, one figure is nearly invisible. Sarah Jenkins. Her faded teal nurse's scrubs carry the faint smell of antiseptic and the exhaustion of a 14-hour shift. Her shoulders sag, weighed down not just by an old backpack, but by the burden of a lifetime. Each step sinks into the concrete, yet in her mind, one image keeps her going. The face of Lily, her 8-year-old daughter. Just thinking of her makes the weight lift, giving way to boundless love and a stubborn strength. But tonight, that strength faces its ultimate test. As Sarah turns into her run-down apartment complex, a small pale red notice taped to the chipped wooden door hits her like a punch. It's no flyer. It's a verdict. Her heart feels crushed by an unseen hand. She doesn't need to read it all. The bold, capital letters sear into her mind. Eviction notice. 30 days. 30 days. Just 30 days to find a new place, with savings near zero and a paycheck barely covering bills. Her world shrinks to the size of that cruel slip of paper. The rain outside howls, voicing the scream she can't let out. Trembling, she opens the door. Their tiny apartment, with its worn furniture, is tidy and clean. On the threadbare couch, curled up like a kitten, Lily sleeps soundly. One hand clutches a crayon. Beside her, a stack of napkins covered in intricate geometric shapes and perfectly symmetrical lines no ordinary child could dream up. Sarah kneels quietly beside her daughter. She brushes soft strands of hair from Lily's forehead, gazing at her angelic face. She's different. Sarah's always known it. Reading at 3, solving complex puzzles at 5. Quiet, living in her own world of numbers, patterns, and questions that stump even teachers. They call it talent. To Sarah, it's both a blessing and a nameless fear. How can she protect that talent, That sensitive soul, when she can't even provide a home. A mind that could hold the universe now faces the threat of being thrown onto the street in a month. Tears spill, hot and bitter. She cries silently, sobs trapped in her chest. She cries for her powerlessness, for life's unfairness. But then, her eyes catch Lily's drawings. A spark ignites in her mind. She can't give up. She won't. For this daughter, she'll do anything. She stands gently, wiping her tears. In the kitchen, she looks at a job ad clipped from last week's paper. One she'd hesitated to take. Weekend office cleaning at a big downtown tech building. The pay's low, but it's all she can cling to now. That night, Sarah dials the number on the ad. She has no idea this desperate choice will do more than earn a few extra bucks. It's setting her and her daughter on a destined path, straight toward a life-changing encounter in the gleaming tower of Aura Innovations. The Aura Innovations tower was unlike anywhere Sarah had ever been. A world of glass and steel, it pierced Seattle's gray sky like a bold claim of power and progress. Wide hallways, polished floors reflecting cold LED lights. The air was sterile and quiet, broken only by the faint squeak of her cleaning cart's wheels. On a Sunday afternoon, with the tower nearly empty, Sarah became a silent shadow, moving floor to floor, erasing traces of a busy work week. Beside her, always, was a small, quiet presence. Her daughter, Lily. Lily never complained. She sat in a corner, pulling scraps of paper and crayons from her backpack, lost in a world Sarah both admired and couldn't fully grasp. Today, Sarah's work ended on the top floor, the executive level, the CEO's domain. A corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city and Puget Sound. As Sarah wiped down meticulously polished wooden desks, Lily's attention drifted elsewhere. On a small marble table sat an exquisite chessboard, its ebony and ivory pieces arranged in an unfinished game. To Lily, it wasn't just a game, but a language, a beautiful pattern waiting to be decoded. Another person was in the room. Julian Croft, the billionaire genius who built the Aura empire from nothing before 30, paced like a caged tiger. He didn't notice the janitor and her daughter. His mind was a storm, wrestling with boardroom pressures, revenue targets, and a faltering AI project. The chessboard was his only refuge, a pure battle of logic where rules were clear. But today, even the board betrayed him. He was stuck, trapped in a legendary setup a friend had challenged him with. The Solomon position, a puzzle that stumped grandmasters. He'd tried every move, every textbook tactic. Nothing worked. Frustrated, he left the board, stepping to the corner bar to pour a glass of water. In that moment, drawn by an unseen force, Lily left her corner and approached the chessboard. She didn't touch anything, strictly following her mother's rules. Her eyes scanned the board, analyzing, processing at an unthinkable speed. When Julian returned, he saw her standing there. He meant to smile and move on to his work, but then a clear, almost whispered voice broke through. "Your pawn's in the wrong spot." Julian froze. He looked at the girl, half surprised, half amused. "Oh, is it now?" he said, his tone indulgent. "So, where should it be?" Lily didn't hesitate, her eyes fixed on the board. "It's not about where it should be. It's about how it gets there." Her voice was oddly precise. "If you sacrifice your bishop on g5, their queen has to take it. Then your knight can move to f6, checking the king and clearing the path for the pawn to advance. Julian stood rooted. He looked down at the board. Sacrifice the bishop. It was a crazy, counterintuitive move. No casual player would consider giving up such a powerful piece. But as his mind traced the logic she laid out, a jolt ran down his spine. It wasn't crazy. It was perfect. A bold, elegant, decisive move. It was the answer. He looked from the board to the girl. A skinny kid in a worn coat with big, serious eyes and a mind that just solved a puzzle he'd wrestled with for a week. A puzzle that baffled experts. Julian Croft, a man always 3 steps ahead of his time, felt utterly overwhelmed for the first time in years. This wasn't luck. This wasn't a fluke. This was genius, raw, unpolished genius, standing in his office beside a cleaning cart. He knelt to her level, his usual confidence gone, replaced by raw astonishment. "What's your name?" "My name's Lily." Lily's clear voice broke the silence. Instantly, Sarah snapped out of her daze. Fear washed over her. She rushed forward, pulling her daughter back, her face pale with panic. "Oh, Mr. Croft, I'm so sorry, truly sorry. She didn't mean to bother you. She's just curious. Please don't fire me." But Julian seemed deaf to her pleas. His gaze stayed locked on Lily, a mix of astonishment, respect, and something close to reverence. He gently raised a hand, signaling Sarah to calm down. "It's all right, Miss Jenkins. Your daughter didn't do anything wrong." He turned back to Lily, his voice softening in a way it rarely did. "Do you like chess, Lily?" Lily didn't speak, just gave a firm nod. In her eyes, Julian saw a quiet, burning passion, a deep connection to the board that he, a seasoned player, envied. That night, Julian Croft couldn't sleep. The image of Lily and her brilliant move haunted him. He'd met countless sharp minds, brilliant scientists, but this was the first time he'd seen such raw, pure talent. It was like a miraculous seed dropped in a desert. If it didn't get water, it would stay buried forever. He couldn't let that happen. The next morning, he didn't go to Aura's headquarters. He drove to a rundown Seattle neighborhood where time seemed frozen. He sought out the Olympian Chess Club, a basement hideout thick with the smell of old wood, paper, and cigarette smoke. This was Arthur Vance's domain, a living legend, a grandmaster who once shook the chess world, now living in seclusion. Word was, Arthur Vance hated 3 things: technology, new money types, and above all, wasted talent. Julian was betting on that last one. Arthur Vance sat in a dim corner, his white hair a mess, his razor-sharp eyes piercing through cigarette smoke. "A tech billionaire," he rasped, mocking. "Lost your way looking for some antique chess pieces?" Julian didn't beat around the bush. He sat down and told Arthur about Lily, the Solomon position, the unthinkable bishop sacrifice. Arthur snorted, stubbing out his cigarette. "Another rich kid," he said, voice dripping with disdain. "Thinks he's found a diamond in the dirt. Son, genius isn't born from luck. It's forged in thousands of hours of grueling work, painful losses, not some fleeting spark from a clueless child." Julian knew logic wouldn't sway this man. He decided to play a gambit. "Mr. Vance, I'm not here to argue. I'm here with a deal." He locked eyes with Arthur. "I'll fund your club's operations for the next 5 years. Arthur raised an eyebrow. "What's the catch?" "You just have to beat her in a 10-minute blitz game. If you win, the money's yours, and I'll never bother you again." Julian paused, then delivered the clincher. "But if you can't win, you train her, with everything you've got." The pride of a grandmaster was challenged. Arthur Vance stared at Julian, then laughed. "Fine. 10 minutes of chess for 5 years of freedom. That's a steal." The next day, Sarah nervously brought Lily to the club. She didn't understand what was happening, only that her big-shot boss wanted her daughter to play a game with a grumpy old man. Arthur set the clock. He looked at Lily with a superior air. "Let's go, kid." He played fast, attacking relentlessly, using complex openings to overwhelm Lily's psyche. But Lily, with an eerie calm, defended with precision. She made no mistakes. Each move was simple, effective, purposeful. Arthur started to feel uneasy. He couldn't break through her defenses. With 3 minutes left, Arthur unleashed an intricate attack, a trap he was sure no amateur could spot. He waited for Lily to slip, but she didn't just avoid the trap. She countered with a stunning move, forcing Arthur into a defensive bind. Time dwindled. 1 minute left. Sweat beaded on the Grandmaster's temple. His hand, holding a piece, froze midair. He studied the board, then the girl across from him. His confidence crumbled, replaced by shock, doubt, and finally, uncontainable excitement. He'd lost on time, but more importantly, he knew even with more time, he couldn't have won this position. An 8-year-old had backed him into a corner. The clock buzzed. Time's up. The game was a draw. But for Arthur Vance, a draw in this context was his heaviest defeat and his greatest discovery. He said nothing, silently resetting the pieces. Then he looked up at Sarah, his voice gruff but free of mockery. "Next Tuesday, 9 a.m. Bring her here. Don't be late." The next 3 months passed like a dream. Lily's life now revolved around two contrasting worlds. By day, she was a quiet student at a public elementary school, but 3 afternoons a week after class, Sarah took her to the musty Olympian chess club, where she stepped into Arthur Vance's domain. Their relationship was odd. A gruff old man, never patient with anyone, and a reserved girl who soaked up knowledge like a sponge. At first, Arthur taught Lily the basics, classic openings, defensive tactics. But soon he realized he wasn't teaching her anymore. He was almost rediscovering chess alongside her. Lily didn't just memorize moves, she felt them. She saw patterns, connections that even Arthur sometimes took seconds to notice. His cynicism slowly gave way to unconcealed admiration. Through it all, Julian Croft was a quiet but vital supporter. He provided books, advanced chess analysis software, and most crucially, a discreet monthly stipend for Sarah, letting her quit her weekend cleaning job to focus on Lily. Sarah, despite her pride's resistance, accepted. She saw her daughter changing. Lily wasn't just getting better, she was growing confident, happier. For the first time, she'd found a language she could fully command. Then the day came. After a training session, Arthur declared firmly, she's ready. The Washington State Chess Championship, her first real test. The university gymnasium buzzed with tense silence. Hundreds of young minds from across the state focused on their boards. In the parents' section, Sarah clutched a paper coffee cup, her heart pounding. She was more nervous than her daughter. Lily, by contrast, was an island of calm. She sat upright, her clear eyes fixed on the board, untouched by the surrounding pressure. The early matches went smoothly. Lily dispatched her opponents with precise, efficient play. Word of an unknown girl causing a stir began to spread, but the real challenge awaited in the semifinals. Her opponent was Ethan Petrov, a true prodigy, son of a Russian tycoon, trained by top grandmasters since toddlerhood. He strode to the board with a smug look, his dismissive glance sweeping over Lily as if she wasn't worth his time. Before the game began, Ethan leaned in, whispering just for Lily. "A trash picker's daughter doesn't know chess." The words stung Sarah like a needle, but Lily seemed unfazed. She silently adjusted her king. The game started. Ethan played aggressively, attacking relentlessly, trying to overwhelm with sheer force. He kept up constant threats, forcing Lily into a grueling defense. From a distance, Sarah felt she could barely breathe. But under that pressure, Lily's mind shone sharpest. She spotted a tiny flaw in Ethan's attack structure, an overconfidence that left him vulnerable. Then, she made an unthinkable move, a sacrifice. She deliberately placed her knight where it could be captured. Ethan smirked and took it, certain of victory. That was the trap. The knight's sacrifice opened a devastating attack path for Lily's rook and queen. A few moves later, Ethan's face changed. Arrogance turned to doubt, then panic. He saw he'd been cornered with no escape. Lily, calm and clear, spoke. Checkmate. Ethan stared at the board, stunned. Unable to accept defeat, he lashed out in anger, sweeping the pieces to the floor. The room buzzed with shock. As officials stepped in, Lily quietly stood, saying nothing, and walked to her mother, her face showing no triumph, only a hint of weariness. Sarah hugged her tightly, tears of pride and relief streaming down. Her daughter had won. But deep inside, a new worry stirred. This victory wasn't just a trophy. It was a door to a bigger world of larger tournaments, longer trips, and costs she'd never dared dream of. The problem was no longer keeping a roof over their heads, but giving this extraordinary talent wings to soar higher, farther. And she knew she couldn't do it alone. The victory at the Washington State Chess Championship was a thunderclap. It didn't just bring a gleaming silver trophy to sit on their old apartment table. It flung open doors Sarah hadn't even dared glance at before. Invitations to national tournaments, emails from renowned chess coaches, whispers of a new prodigy. The initial joy quickly gave way to harsh reality. Every opportunity came with a price tag. Entry fees, plane tickets, hotels, advanced training costs. At night, after Lily fell asleep, Sarah sat alone at the kitchen table, spreading out bills and scribbling in a notebook. The numbers danced cruelly before her eyes, mocking the dream she was trying to nurture for her daughter. That pale red eviction notice still lurked under a pile of mail, like a ticking time bomb. Pride in Lily's triumph and fear for their future swirled into a storm in her chest. A few days later, Julian Croft called. He didn't want to talk over the phone, instead inviting her to a small, quiet coffee shop. He wore a simple sweater, looking less like a billionaire and more like a friend. He started by congratulating Lily again, his smile warm and genuine. He asked about their plans. Sarah, guarded by her pride, spoke vaguely. "We're looking at a few tournaments, but the costs are a big hurdle." Julian stayed quiet for a moment, stirring his coffee. Then he looked her in the eye, serious but empathetic. "Sarah, I've thought a lot about this. I see Lily's talent not as a hobby, but as a serious investment in the future. And for talent to grow, it needs a stable environment." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "This isn't about charity. It's about logistics. Getting from your neighborhood to Vance's club, then to other venues, takes time and energy. It's cutting into Lily's studies and rest." He set his cup down. Hartwell Technologies owns some apartments for senior professionals near downtown. Right now, a 2-bedroom unit's empty, due to a hiring freeze on international staff. It's spacious, secure, and most importantly, close to good schools, and just a 15-minute drive from Vance's club. He continued, his voice steady. "I'd like you and Lily to move in there. No cost. Think of it as part of a talent development program the company's funding for Lily, a practical way to maximize her potential." Sarah froze. Her throat tightened. A free apartment. An offer so generous it was unthinkable, yet it stung her pride deeply. She wanted to shout, "No, we don't need pity." She wanted to insist she could provide for her daughter. She was Lily's mother, and that was her duty. But then, The eviction notice flashed in her mind. The cramped, damp apartment. Lily studying on the floor because she had no desk. Then she thought of her daughter's radiant face at the chessboard. A world where she belonged. A world Sarah couldn't give her on her own. The tug-of-war inside her was suffocating. A clash between adult pride and a child's future. And in that battle, she knew who had to win. She took a deep breath, trying to keep her voice steady. "Mr. Julian," she said, using his first name for the first time. We'll take it." Those two words came out like a confession, a surrender. But Julian just nodded with quiet relief, his eyes showing no pity, only understanding. He knew how hard this was for her. A week later, they moved. The new apartment was flooded with sunlight, with a room for Lily and a large oak desk for her chessboard and books. From the living room window, Sarah could see Seattle's gleaming towers. They were safe. They had a future. But amid the luxury, Sarah didn't feel fully at ease. Instead, she felt a heavy gratitude, an invisible debt. She knew that stepping through this door meant entering a new world, one where she no longer set the rules. And somewhere in the Aura Innovations Tower, other eyes were starting to notice the young CEO's unusual personal project. The next 6 months were the calmest Sarah had ever known. With a stable home, Lily thrived like a fish in water. Her talent exploded. She didn't just dominate state tournaments. She began making a name nationally, defeating opponents years older. Arthur Vance, once a reluctant coach, now spoke of Lily with unguarded pride, seeing her as his greatest successor. Sarah and Julian's bond deepened too. He was no longer just a sponsor. He became a friend, a mentor. He attended nearly every one of Lily's tournaments, sharing each tense moment and burst of victory. They ate dinners together, discussed Lily's future, slowly forming an unofficial family built on respect and a shared love for the gifted girl. But in the world of billion-dollar corporations, no support goes unnoticed, and no kindness escapes scrutiny. In the sleek boardroom on Aura's top floor, with its long, cold wooden table and black leather power chairs, the air was thick with calculation. At the head sat Victoria Davenport. She was perfection personified. Blonde hair perfectly pinned, suit perfectly tailored, smile perfectly artificial. As board chair, she saw the world through numbers, profit, risk, market share. To her, Julian Croft was a valuable asset. But lately, that asset had a rogue variable, a risk named Lily Jenkins. Today, she decided it was time to act. "Ladies and gentlemen of the board," Victoria began, her voice calm and professional. "I'd like to address the allocation of leadership resources and focus over the past 2 quarters. A large screen behind her lit up, not with revenue growth charts, but a copy of Julian Croft's schedule. With a voice sharp as a blade, Victoria highlighted weekend flights to Chicago, Denver, Atlanta, not for tech summits, but chess tournaments. She detailed maintenance expenses for a downtown high-rise apartment the company's supposedly leasing, its market rent a substantial figure. She listed consulting fees paid to Arthur Vance, a name absent from their tech expert roster. She never raised her voice, but each word was a dagger. Julian is a brilliant mind. No one denies that. But that mind is distracted. Our CEO's precious time and resources are being spent on a personal project, a hobby. She paused, scanning the room, letting her words sink in. "Colleagues, we need a leader, 100% focused on Aura Innovations, not a part-time foster father." The statement landed like a blow. It turned Julian's kindness into unprofessionalism, his support into a fatal flaw. Julian, at the table's end, sat stunned. He tried to explain about potential, social responsibility, investing in people. But in this room, those words sounded hollow against the language of profit and dividends. Other board members, men and women fixated on cash flow, exchanged knowing glances. They were sharks, smelling blood in the water. Victoria knew she'd won. She delivered the final strike. For the company's and shareholders' best interests, I formally propose a no-confidence vote on Julian Croft's CEO position, to be held at the next quarterly meeting. The room fell silent. A coup had been launched. Julian was isolated, attacked in the empire he'd built. Victoria sat back, a fleeting, victorious smile crossing her lips before vanishing. She knew the battle was just beginning. The vote was 3 months away. In that time, she'd ensure Julian's image was irreparably tarnished. And Victoria Davenport knew that to topple a king, you don't always strike the king directly. Sometimes you just remove the queen he fiercely protects. A ruthless, perfect plan sparked in her mind. The company's annual charity gala was coming. It would be the ideal stage. Aura's charity gala was the most prestigious social event in Seattle's tech scene. A night of glittering chandeliers, clinking champagne glasses, and meticulously rehearsed smiles. To Sarah, it was another world. She felt like an imposter in the simple black dress Julian had insisted on buying for her. Though elegant, it couldn't mask her unease amid a sea of designer gowns and jewelry worth fortunes. Lily, in a small princess dress, showed little interest in the socializing. She only studied the marble floor's patterns and the play of light and shadow from the chandeliers. When Julian joined them, all eyes turned their way. He took Sarah's hand, pride shining in his gaze. "You look amazing," he whispered. Tonight, he didn't just want to introduce them. He wanted the world to know they were his family. He guided them to meet business partners and key investors, presenting Sarah with respect, and Lily with admiration. Sarah started to feel a bit more confident. Maybe she'd worried too much. Maybe she could belong here. Then Victoria Davenport appeared. She glided over, graceful as a viper, in a deep red evening gown. Her smile dazzled, but it never reached her ice-cold eyes. "Julian, how wonderful," she purred. "So open-minded of you to bring your whole family. It shows such a commendable community spirit." Then she turned to Sarah, her assessing gaze sweeping head to toe. The smile stayed, but her next words dripped venom. "Ms. Jenkins, so nice to have you here." She paused, just long enough for the small group nearby to take notice. "With your experience in service and healthcare, I'm sure you appreciate our hygiene standards tonight." Sarah's world stopped. The air thickened. Nearby conversations hushed. It was an invisible slap, 1,000 times more painful than a physical one. In a single sentence, Victoria had reminded Sarah and everyone else of her place: a janitor, a nurse, a servant. She'd turned Sarah's presence into a pitiful joke. Julian's face hardened, his eyes blazing with fury. He gripped Sarah's hand, ready to speak, but she shook her head slightly, her eyes pleading. She didn't want a public fight. The damage was done. The drive home was cloaked in heavy silence. City lights blurred past the car windows like unshed tears. Lily dozed in the back, unaware of the storm that had just swept through her mother's life. Stepping into the sunlit apartment that now felt strangely cold, Sarah turned to face Julian. She'd made her decision in the car's silence. "I can't do this anymore, Julian." Her voice was hoarse, thick with pain. "Sarah, don't listen to her. She's just a cruel—" "No." Sarah cut him off, tears now spilling. She was right. "I don't belong there. I'm a burden to you. I'm the reason they're attacking you. I saw it in their eyes tonight. I'm your weakness, Julian. She stepped back, as if physically distancing herself from his world. We're moving out. Tomorrow morning. We'll give everything back. Lily can stay in school until the year ends. I'll figure something out. Stop it, Sarah. Julian stepped forward, grabbing her shoulders. What are you talking about? I don't care about the board, about Victoria. I need you. Lily needs you here in this home. Sarah shook her head, pulling his hands away. No, you don't get it. I'm doing this to protect you, and to protect her. I can't let her grow up in a world that looks at her with pity, as some billionaire's charity project. I was wrong to accept all this. Her final words came out resolute, painfully firm. This is over. Her bedroom door closed. Julian stood alone in the lavish living room, now emptier and colder than ever. He'd lost, not on a chessboard, but in a far crueler game. Victoria Davenport hadn't just attacked him, she'd shattered the emotional foundation he'd just begun to build. The crack had formed, and from it, everything began to crumble. Sarah kept her word. 2 days later, she and Lily left the sunlit apartment overlooking Puget Sound. They moved to a cramped one-bedroom in Brighton, a neighborhood where blaring car horns and shouting neighbor kids were the soundtrack. A faint, musty smell hung in the air. It was a step back, not just in physical space, but in hope itself. To cover rent and keep Lily in her prestigious school, Sarah went back to work. Not one job, but 2. By day, she was a nurse at the hospital. 4 nights a week, she donned a janitor's uniform for a downtown law firm. Exhaustion became her constant companion. But physical pain was nothing compared to the torment of watching her daughter. Lily had changed. The spark in her eyes had dimmed. The chessboard, a gift from Julian, sat untouched in a corner, gathering a thin layer of dust. At Westfield's chess club, she still showed up, but her play was different, mechanical, lacking the bold, sacrificial moves that once defined her. She started losing, falling to opponents she'd have easily beaten months ago. The scariest part wasn't the losses, but her reaction. No tears, no anger, just a hollow indifference, as if winning or losing no longer mattered. Her extraordinary talent, without the environment and joy to nurture it, was withering. Across the city, Julian Croft sank into his own darkness. The Aura Innovations Tower now felt like a glass prison. He went to the office daily, but his mind was elsewhere. The ebony chessboard in his office shared the same fate as Lily's. Forgotten. His distraction took its toll. A critical merger stalled because he missed a key meeting. A new product development veered off track without his sharp guidance. Board members whispered. Aura's stock dipped for the first time in years. Behind it all, Victoria Davenport watched silently, consolidating power, waiting for the no-confidence vote to deliver her final blow. Julian knew it all but lacked the strength to fight. His greatest drive, Lily's smile, and Sarah's respect, was gone. Sarah hurt the most, witnessing everything. She saw her daughter withdraw. She read business news about Aura's instability and felt crushing guilt. Her pride had built a prison wall, trapping all 3 of them inside. She wanted to call Julian to admit she was wrong, but every time she picked up the phone, the memory of that night, the pitying stares of strangers, choked her. 3 people, in different corners of the same city, shared an unspoken emptiness, a nameless loss. Hope seemed extinguished. But one person watched from the outside, Arthur Vance. He saw his prized students decline. He heard rumors about Julian Croft. He wasn't a sentimental man, but he loathed one thing above all: waste. What was happening was a brutal squandering of talent, potential, and happiness. He knew adult pride and pain were destroying something precious. One afternoon, after watching Lily lose a game she should have won in 15 minutes, Arthur Vance stubbed out his cigarette. His patience was gone. He decided it was time for his own move, a move none of them could predict. Arthur Vance didn't call. Important matters couldn't be settled over a cold phone line. He went straight to the Aura Innovations Tower. In his threadbare wool suit, with disheveled white hair and the faint smell of tobacco, he was an out-of-place relic of an old world in the polished marble and chrome lobby of the new. The young receptionist tried to stop him, but Arthur gave a curt nod and marched to the executive elevator as if he owned the place. Minutes later, he stood before Victoria Davenport's office door, unannounced. Victoria was surprised, but masked it with a practiced smile. "Mr. Vance, what an unexpected honor. Are you lost?" Arthur ignored the greeting, cutting to the chase. "I'm here to talk about two things you're about to destroy," he said, his voice gravelly. He placed an old book on her glass desk, its cover reading, "Fallen Stars, The Tragedy of Forgotten Prodigies." Victoria glanced at the book, then at him, her eyebrows slightly raised. "I don't follow." "Oh, I think you do," Arthur said. "You're destroying Julian Croft, and you're destroying Lily Jenkins." He leaned forward, hands on the desk, staring into the eyes of the company's most powerful woman. "I don't care about your corporate games, but let me tell you a truth. Julian Croft, brilliant as he is, can be replaced. In your business world, there's always another genius, but a talent like Lily Jenkins, a chess prodigy who comes once in a generation, is irreplaceable. America's been waiting for someone like her since Bobby Fischer." Victoria's smile was cold. "My responsibility is to the shareholders, sir, not a chessboard." "Wrong," Arthur snapped. "A leader's ultimate responsibility is to their legacy. What do you think people will remember you for in 50 years? Boosting profits by 3% in a quarter? Or crushing one of this country's brightest talents for petty power plays?" He pointed at the book. "It's full of stories about piano prodigies, young mathematicians, extraordinary athletes who faded because of pressure, lack of support, and selfish adults who only saw short-term gains. Do you want Lily's name in the next chapter? Is that the legacy you want, Ms. Davenport?" It was the first time anyone had spoken to Victoria Davenport like this. She stared at him, silent. She wasn't sentimental, but she was a master strategist. She saw that his words weren't emotional. They held a different logic, a different value. She began to calculate. A disgraced Julian Croft. A scandal about exploiting a poor child. That would damage Aura's reputation, even if she won. But a celebrated Julian Croft. A visionary CEO who discovered and nurtured a national genius from obscurity. That was a PR story worth millions. It would transform Aura from a cold tech giant into an organization with heart and social responsibility. It would make Julian an icon, and she, as board chair who recognized and backed his vision, would reap the benefits. She saw a new path, a shrewder, more powerful one. Victoria stood, adjusting her blazer. She looked at Arthur with an icy smile, betraying no emotion. "Thank you for your perspective, Mr. Vance. You've made your point clear. You may go now." After Arthur left, Victoria sat alone in her office's silence. She didn't glance at the book. She didn't need to. She had a new plan. She picked up the phone, not calling Julian, but the head of Aura's communications team. "Catherine," she said, her voice calm and commanding. "I have a story for you. A good one. About a CEO, a janitor's daughter, and a chessboard. Get ready. But we'll tell it our way." She hung up, gazing out at Seattle's skyline. A new move had been made. A media storm was coming, but this time, Victoria Davenport would steer its course. The storm didn't start with a thunderclap. It began with an article, a front-page exclusive in the Seattle Times, with a headline impossible to ignore. "Cinderella's checkmate, from unknown janitor's daughter to national chess prodigy, a modern fairy tale." The article was masterfully written. It told of a quiet genius girl, a single mother working tirelessly, and a billionaire CEO with a heart of gold who spotted a diamond in the rough. It was a perfect story. Inspiring, uplifting, making readers believe in goodness. Exactly the story Victoria Davenport wanted the world to hear. Within 24 hours, it exploded. National TV networks pounced. Morning talk shows scrambled for interviews. The story of Lily Jenkins became a sensation. People loved it. They admired Sarah's humility, marveled at Lily's talent, and praised Julian Croft's kindness. But in today's world, where every fairy tale is scrutinized under a microscope, a backlash began to brew. It started in the internet's darker corners. Business news forums and blogs. Skeptical comments popped up. A PR stunt too perfect from a floundering billionaire, huh? Then sharper analyses appeared with biting headlines. Savior complex, genuine kindness, or sly manipulation. They dissected the story's timing right before the no-confidence vote. They questioned Julian's motives. Was he using a poor girl and her mother as a shield, a tool in his corporate battle? This second storm hit harder, striking Sarah's deepest fears. She wept reading comments calling her a gold digger, labeling Lily a pitiful pawn. Their private lives, their poverty, were now dissected for the world to judge. At school, Lily faced taunts, kids asking if she'd been bought by a rich guy. The attention that first seemed a blessing turned into a curse. Julian saw it all. He saw Sarah's pain, Lily's confusion. He faced a bitter truth. As long as his help was personal, it would be doubted. As long as it was a story of a rich man aiding the poor, it could be twisted. Words and good intentions weren't enough. He needed action. Action beyond suspicion or distortion. He called a press conference, not at Aura's gleaming headquarters, but at a community center in Brighton, the neighborhood Sarah and Lily once called home. Standing before dozens of cameras, no podium, no scripted speech, Julian spoke plainly, from the heart. "There's been a lot said about me, Sarah Jenkins, and her daughter Lily these past days. Talk of money, motives, PR. Today, I want to talk about one thing, potential." He looked straight into the cameras. Lily's talent is a gift. But how many gifts like hers are out there, wasted because circumstances don't allow? How many other Lily Jenkinses are we never meeting? "So," he said, his voice growing strong and resolute, "I'm announcing the creation of the Checkmate Foundation. I'm committing $50 million of my personal wealth to launch it. Our mission is simple: to find, fund, and train young talents from disadvantaged backgrounds in science, technology, engineering, math, and of course, chess, to ensure no talent, no matter where they're born, gets left behind." The move was like thunder in a clear sky. It crushed every criticism. This wasn't a PR stunt, it was a long-term commitment, a legacy. Julian turned a personal attack into a grander mission. The media narrative flipped instantly. Julian was hailed as a visionary philanthropist. Victoria Davenport, seeing her plan succeed beyond expectation, swiftly issued a board statement praising the CEO's humanitarian initiative and declaring Aura Innovations the Checkmate Foundation's first strategic partner. The no-confidence vote was quietly scrapped. The corporate battle was over. Now, with external storms calmed, one final battle remained. A battle on 64 squares, on the world's biggest stage. And this time, Lily wasn't just fighting for herself. She fought for her mother, for Julian, and for the thousands of other kids she'd become a symbol of hope for. And so, we returned to Geneva. Back to the dazzling stage, the breathless silence of thousands, the relentless ticking of the clock. Everything is as we saw at the story's start. But now we understand. We see the weight on Lily Jenkins's small shoulders. But this time, she isn't alone. In the front row, Sarah Jenkins grips her hands tightly, her eyes free of fear, filled only with absolute faith in her daughter. Beside her, Julian Croft sits upright, his gaze locked on the board, a steady, protective presence. In another corner, Grandmaster Arthur Vance, with his usual scowl, but his eyes gleaming with undeniable pride. They are Lily's family, her strongest defense, impenetrable by any chess piece. On stage, the game nears its end. After hours of grueling strategy, the position is fiendishly complex. Lily's opponent, Ethan Petrov, is no longer the arrogant boy from before. His earlier defeat taught him respect. He plays cautiously, precisely, with technical mastery, cornering Lily in a brutally tough position. Lily's clock shows less than a minute. The pressure is crushing. The entire hall holds its breath. A single mistake now could cost her the championship. Lily closes her eyes for a second. Her mind isn't filled with complex calculations or move variations. Instead, an image surfaces. A rainy Sunday afternoon years ago. An ebony chessboard in a lavish office. A stranger wrestling with a position he thought unsolvable. The Solomon position. When she opens her eyes, a faint, almost imperceptible smile crosses her lips. A strange coincidence. The board before her, though 1,000 times more intricate, holds the same core pattern, the same logic as that day's puzzle. A solution requiring sacrifice. A vision beyond ordinary calculation. She doesn't hesitate. Her small hand reaches out, gently pushing her bishop into a fatal square. A move every commentator deems mad, suicidal. Ethan Petrov freezes. He doesn't understand. The crowd murmurs. Only Arthur Vance below smiles. He recognizes it. The mark of genius. Lily's mark. Ethan, after calculating, takes the bishop. And that's when the trap snaps shut. The sacrifice unleashes a cascade of attacks, graceful as a symphony. Each of Lily's moves is precise, fluid, unstoppable. 5 moves later, as she slides her queen to an unexpected square, Ethan looks up. He studies the board, then Lily. No anger remains in his eyes, only genuine awe. He nods slightly and gently tips his king over, the sign of surrender. The hall erupts in applause. Lily Jenkins is the world champion. That night, there are no lavish parties. Their celebration happens in a cozy hotel room, just 4 people. Sarah hugs her daughter, crying with joy. Julian watches Lily with boundless pride. Arthur, in his own way, sets a signed advanced chess book on the table, inscribed by every grandmaster he knows. The ultimate recognition. 1 year later. Our story doesn't end on a grand stage, but in a bustling Seattle community center. The first headquarters of the Checkmate Foundation. At the room's heart, amid laughter and the clack of chess pieces, young world champion Lily Jenkins patiently shows a shy 7-year-old girl how to move a pawn. The girl's wide, clear eyes mirror Lily's from years ago. In a corner, Julian and Sarah watch, hand in hand. Their love has blossomed through trials built on trust. Life, like a chess game, is full of unexpected moves. Their story teaches us that talent can be found in the unlikeliest places. That one act of kindness, one moment of belief can ignite a destiny. And that the greatest victory isn't checkmating an opponent, but inspiring others to start their own game. Because in the end, the grandest game isn't the one we win. It's the one we help others have the chance to play.